Joining us now, as promised, Mary Trump is President Trump's niece. She warns his reelection might spell the end of American democracy. And she's the author of a best-selling book you have probably heard about if you watch the news, Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man. You are in a very particular situation that, frankly, most people probably don't have personal experience with. And so I really appreciate what you're doing and speaking out your understanding of the situation, your truth, and making time for us tonight. Thank you for being here.
Oh, Ari, it's so great to be here. Thank you.
We were just discussing, and the world is dealing with, President Trump's lies. Your view of whether he's always been this way or it's gotten worse, and any insight you have into why your uncle lies so much.
He's always been this way. It's worse simply because of the power he unfortunately wields and the exponentially greater number of people who listen to him. So the problem is that nobody is holding him to account. Why does he lie? Because he can. He lies when he doesn't appreciate the value of the truth, or when the truth doesn't benefit him. So lying serves the same purpose for him it always has. Unfortunately, it's having an impact on an increasingly large number of people. So I completely understand why people talk about the problem that Donald is. He is responsible for the deaths of hundreds, if not thousands of people every day. We cannot forget that. However, he has so much help that we need to start talking much more directly about the horrors that the Republican Party is allowing him to inflict upon the rest of us.
You mentioned accountability. That has been a big theme and concern in this era. When you were around the family, did you ever see anyone call him out on his penchant, as you put it, for lying, just within family dealings?
Never. My grandfather treated Donald as somebody who could do no wrong, even though at some point he must have known that Donald was not particularly intelligent, or he didn't have any particular business savvy, because my grandfather supported him with money, power, and connections every step of the way. But, the rest of us didn't know that. So Donald was put on a pedestal that he didn't deserve to be on, of course, but it trained him to believe that he was completely above the fray and beyond any reckoning.
Did you ever hear Donald, as you put it, say or do anything that suggested an awareness or an insecurity about that?
No, never. And that's sort of one of the interesting things about him. Deep down, he's a very insecure person. He's very afraid. But
you're sure of that?
I'm sorry?
You're sure of that?
Yes, I'm absolutely sure of that. And that explains, in part, the extreme degree to which he has to convince himself and other people that he's always right, and he's always great, and he's always the best.
It's really striking, especially given your proximity. As you know, and our viewers know, we've been living through a racial reckoning this summer. The roots of it obviously predate everyone alive right now, including the president. And yet he is the leader at this time, fomenting so much of it. I want to play something we put together. We do this sometimes with our archival footage of the way Donald Trump has discussed these issues of police brutality and how they overlap with race. Take a look.
I said, please don't be too nice. Like when you guys put somebody in the car and you're protecting their head, the way you put their hand over. Like, don't hit their head. You can take the hand away, okay?
Why are African Americans still dying at the hands of law enforcement in this country?
And so are white people. So are white people.
Are you going to condemn the actions of vigilantes like Kyle Rittenhouse?
We're looking at all of it. That was an interesting situation. He was trying to get away from them, I guess, it looks like, and he fell, and then they very violently attacked him.
From your family time with him, why does he view the world this way?
It suits his purposes. First of all, he just is fundamentally a racist. He thinks he's better than the other. You know, he grew up in a racist family with a racist father. But beyond that, Donald thrives in chaos and division, and he will, because he is so weak and incompetent, pick the lowest common denominator. And in this country, especially with somebody who has the access to power that he has, that means creating strife between Black Americans and white Americans, and making his followers feel that they're superior because, like him, you know, they don't have a lot going for them, I'm sorry to say. I don't understand, honestly, why this is something that continues to surprise people. Donald has been showing his stripes since the early 70s. What he did in the 80s with the Central Park Five was so vile that he should never have been allowed in polite society after that. So we are, again,
let me press you, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
I want to press you because, and again, it's so difficult to talk about one's own family, but you are, in your own words, saying that you viewed part of that family environment as racist. Does that mean then that you view him as sort of in the center of that average, if you will, or do you feel that the way he was and grew to be was more racist, more hateful, more bigoted than perhaps just the environment he was in?
I think that I don't think my family was they weren't virulently racist. And I don't know if Donald would be if it weren't, in his view, expedient to getting what he wants, which is to sow division, because he thinks it plays to his base. He thinks it's going to keep him in power. And also it makes him feel like a tough guy. You know, but the things he says and the things he continues to get away with are, you know, not surprising, but appalling. And not one elected Republican speaks out. And it's, again, why we are where we are. You know, if they're not going to hold him accountable, how can anybody else? Right. So in my view right now, the entire party is the problem, and he's just being allowed to sow division. I think it's a smokescreen, you know, for whatever's going on. I heard Jason Johnson say that Donald's trying to steal the election, and I agree with that. But I would say even more pointedly, he's already cheating. He's cheating right now by, you know, dismantling sorting machines at the post office, and calling into question the legitimacy of an election in which not one vote has yet been cast, and telling people that voting by mail is suspect somehow in the middle of a pandemic in which he is responsible for the death of over 185,000 people. I mean, it's quite honestly, it's a little hard to take at this point. And as we saw at the beginning of your show, it's more every day. I mean, the things you talked about could have happened in a year, and they happened in a matter of 2 days.
Yeah, I think you're making so many important points, including about the way these things happen and the collective responsibility of other individuals and institutions. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.